I always thought the worst kind of betrayal was when a lover cheats, or when a friend stabs you in the back. I was wrong. The worst betrayal is when your parents, the people who are supposed to be your anchor in a storm, lie to you every single day of your life. And I didn't just find out by accident, I stumbled onto the truth in the cruelest way possible. It started with a box. An old cardboard box shoved in the attic, taped shut and covered in dust. I wasn't even supposed to be up there, I was just looking for Christmas decorations. But when I saw my name scrawled across the side in my mother's handwriting, curiosity got the better of me. Inside were files. Not baby pictures, not keepsakes, but official documents. Birth records, hospital forms, things I didn't understand at first. But one detail leapt out at me like a knife: the last name on the birth certificate wasn't mine. The parents listed weren't the people who had raised me. My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. At first I thought maybe it was a mistake, some kind of clerical error. But then I found letters. Handwritten letters from a woman whose name I didn't recognize, begging for updates on her child. Begging for me. My hands shook as I read line after line of a stranger's words, filled with love and desperation. Please tell me how he's doing. Please let me see him. Please don't shut me out. But the letters had never been sent. They'd been hidden away in that attic, buried like a corpse. I stumbled downstairs clutching the papers, heart pounding, demanding answers. My mother went pale the second she saw what I was holding. My father swore under his breath. And that's when I realized the truth. My entire life, every story they told me about my birth, about our family, about where I came from, was a lie. I wasn't their son. At least, not in the way I thought. I slammed the papers down on the kitchen table so hard the coffee mugs rattled. My mom just stared at them like they were ticking bombs, her hands trembling as she reached for the birth certificate but couldn't bring herself to touch it. My dad's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might break. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice louder than I'd ever spoken to them in my life. "Whose name is this? Who are these letters from?" My mom finally whispered, "You weren't supposed to see that." That single sentence shattered me. Not a denial, not a mistake, just confirmation that it was real and that they had kept it from me on purpose. "So it's true?" I asked, my chest tightening. You're not my real parents?" My dad slammed his fist on the table, making me jump. "We are your parents," he barked, his voice raw. "We raised you. We gave you a life. That's all that matters." "That's not what I asked." I snapped back, my throat burning. Why does my birth certificate have different names? Who is this woman begging to see me? Why didn't you tell me? My mom broke down crying, burying her face in her hands. My dad paced the room like a caged animal, muttering curses. Finally, he stopped and looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. "Because she didn't deserve you," he said coldly. "Because she would have ruined you. We saved you from her." My mind spun. Saved me? From what? "You lied to me for my entire life," I said, my voice shaking. "Every story you told me about being born in this town, about the hospital, about Grandma being the first to hold me, that was all fake?" My mom lifted her head, tears streaking her face. "We just wanted to protect you. If you knew the truth, it would destroy you." But I couldn't stop. The words poured out of me like poison. "Destroy me? You've already destroyed me. 15 years, 20 years, however long this lie has gone on, I've been living in your fantasy. And now you expect me to thank you for it?" My dad growled, "You don't understand. You're better off not knowing who she is. Forget about her. She doesn't matter." But the problem was, I couldn't forget. I couldn't unknow what I had seen. And the more they tried to shut me down, the more desperate I became for answers. Because whoever this woman was, she hadn't just been erased from my life, she had been erased violently, deliberately. And that meant whatever truth they were hiding was so dark they would rather let me hate them than face it themselves. That night I couldn't close my eyes without seeing the name on that certificate, the unfamiliar handwriting on those letters. Every word my parents had ever told me replayed in my head like a broken record, and suddenly it all felt fake. Their lullabies, their stories, even their smiles seemed rehearsed. I knew if I pressed them again, they'd only double down on the lies. So I did what any desperate, betrayed kid would do, I went digging on my own. I started with the name on the birth certificate. It felt surreal typing it into a search bar, knowing I was searching for my own blood. At first, nothing. Then a few scraps, an old address 3 towns over, a phone number long disconnected, and a blurry social media profile with a single photo of a woman holding a baby. The caption read, "My everything. Please come back to me." My chest constricted so hard I almost stopped breathing. Was that baby me? Was this stranger the person who had begged for me in those letters? My hand shook as I clicked through her posts. Most were cryptic quotes about loss and pain. Others were angry rants about betrayal. And then I saw one that made my blood run cold. It was from years ago, a simple sentence, "They stole him from me." I slammed the laptop shut, heart racing. Stole? What the hell did that mean? I couldn't tell if she was delusional, if she was some unstable person my parents had rescued me from, or if she was telling the kind of truth people bury because it's too ugly to face. I tried to sleep but couldn't, so I went back to the attic, searching through the box again. Beneath the letters, tucked under yellowed hospital papers, was something I hadn't noticed before, a police report. My hands went numb as I read it. It listed my biological mother's name, noted that she had been unfit at the time, that custody had been transferred. But the words were vague, deliberately vague, like someone had wanted the details hidden. There was no judge's signature, no official stamp, just a note scribbled in the margin, "Case closed by agreement." Agreement with who? I stormed back to my room, the paper clutched in my fist, and sat on my bed shaking. If what she had written online was true, if she believed I had been stolen, then my entire life wasn't just a lie. It was a crime. I stared at that police report until the words blurred into nothing, my brain refusing to process what my eyes kept telling me. Unfit. Transferred. Case closed by agreement. None of it felt real, none of it explained why this woman had written they stole him from me. The only way to know the truth was to hear it from her. My hands trembled as I dug through her social media again, scrolling until I found the option to message her. My first draft was angry. "Who are you? Why are you saying I was stolen?" But I deleted it. If she was unstable, I couldn't push too hard. If she was telling the truth, I couldn't scare her away. Finally, I typed, "I think you might know me. My name is redacted. Please, I need answers." I didn't expect a reply. Honestly, I half hoped she wouldn't respond, because the thought of opening that door terrified me. But an hour later, my phone buzzed. A single message appeared, "I knew you'd find me someday." My chest seized up. My thumbs hovered over the screen, shaking. "Who are you?" I wrote. Her answer came quick, "I'm your mother." My vision swam. I had to sit down, the room tilting around me. If that's true, then what happened? Why did my parents say you left me? I asked. The typing dots appeared, vanished, reappeared. Finally, she wrote, "Because they took you." I begged them not to, I begged everyone. But they told me I wasn't good enough. They said you'd be better off without me. And then they shut every door in my face. My heart pounded. It lined up too perfectly with the letters I'd found, with the missing pieces in that police report. But part of me resisted. Why would they do that? I typed. Why would they steal me? Her answer was like a dagger, because they could. Because they wanted a child and they had the money and connections to make it happen. And because no one believed me when I screamed that it wasn't right. I dropped the phone onto the couch, my hands clammy, my breathing shallow. Was she telling the truth? Or was this the delusion of someone bitter and broken? I didn't know. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty, my parents weren't going to tell me the full story. And the woman who claimed to be my real mother was ready to. I couldn't sleep after that conversation. Her words echoed in my head, "They took you because they could." It was insane, it was impossible, but it explained the letters, the missing judge's stamp, the silence that followed every time I asked my parents about my past. By morning I knew texting wasn't enough. I needed to see her. I needed to look this woman in the eyes and decide for myself if she was lying or if my entire life had been stolen. I messaged her again, "I want to meet." "Where?" Her reply came fast, like she'd been waiting years for me to ask. "There's a diner off Route 17. Tomorrow. Noon. I'll be there." My heart nearly exploded out of my chest. When I told my parents I was going out the next day, my mom's face went pale instantly. She didn't even ask where. She just whispered, "Don't do this." My dad slammed his fist on the counter. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." His words cut deep, but they also confirmed everything. They were terrified of me hearing her side. And that meant I had to. The next day I drove to the diner, my palms sweaty against the steering wheel, my stomach twisting so badly I thought I might throw up. Every mile felt like I was driving toward a cliff. I parked outside and sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the neon sign flickering in the window, trying to work up the courage to go inside. Finally, I forced myself out of the car. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped in, and then I saw her. She was sitting in a booth by the window, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Her hair was streaked with gray, her face lined with years of pain, but the moment her eyes met mine I knew. I don't know how, I just knew. She looked at me like she'd been staring at the sun and finally found shade. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. I froze, my throat closing up, a part of me screaming to run away. But my legs carried me forward, and I slid into the booth across from her. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "You look just like him." My heart hammered. "Like who?" I asked. Her voice cracked as she answered, "Your real father." Her words sliced through me like glass. "Your real father." I sat frozen in that booth, my fingers digging into the sticky vinyl seat, my heart pounding like a war drum. For a second I couldn't even speak. Finally, I croaked out, "What do you mean? Who was he?" She stared into her coffee like she was afraid to look at me, and when she finally spoke her voice was so fragile I had to lean in to hear it. "His name was Daniel. We met when we were barely older than you are now. He wasn't perfect, but he loved me, and when I got pregnant with you, he promised me we'd figure it out together. But my parents hated him. They said he was reckless, that he didn't have the money or the stability to take care of a child. They threatened to cut me off completely if I stayed with him." Her hands shook as she spoke, her nails tapping against the coffee cup. "And then, he died. A car accident. He never even got to see you." My chest tightened until I thought I'd suffocate. I had grown up believing my father was the man who sat at our kitchen table every night, the man who barked orders and acted like his word was law. But now I was being told that the blood in my veins came from someone else, someone I'd never meet, someone who had wanted me but hadn't lived long enough to fight for me. "So then what happened?" I whispered, my voice raw. Her eyes filled with tears. "Then my parents decided I couldn't raise you alone. They said I was unstable, too emotional, not capable. I begged them to give me a chance, but they already had other plans. Your adoptive parents, they weren't strangers. They were connected. They knew how to make paperwork disappear, how to make people believe a story. They promised my family they'd give you a better life. I didn't have the power to stop them. I tried lawyers, I tried the courts, but the case was closed before it even began. And when I fought too hard, they threatened to take everything from me. They told me if I made noise, I'd never even know where you ended up." She broke down then, sobbing quietly into her hands, her shoulders shaking. I sat there stunned, the world tilting sideways. My whole childhood, I'd been told my parents were heroes, that they gave me stability, that they sacrificed so much for me. But now I was staring at the woman who claimed to have been robbed of me, and she was telling me the exact opposite, that they weren't saviors at all. They were thieves. "Why didn't you come for me?" I whispered, almost too afraid to ask. She lifted her head, her face streaked with tears. "I did. For years I sent letters, I showed up to court hearings, I even tried to sneak into the school you went to when you were little. They pushed me out every time. They told everyone I was crazy. And eventually, I started to believe maybe I was. But I never stopped loving you." My hands shook so badly I had to grip the table to keep steady. For the first time in my life, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. The drive home from that diner felt like a fever dream. Her words replayed in my skull on a loop, "They stole you. They erased me. They told everyone I was crazy." I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, my pulse racing with equal parts rage and confusion. When I pulled into the driveway, my parents' car was there, the warm glow of the kitchen light spilling through the window like nothing in the world was wrong. But everything was wrong. I stormed inside, the door slamming against the wall, and found them sitting at the table like they'd been waiting for me. My mom's face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. My dad didn't even look up from his glass of whiskey. "Where were you?" my mom whispered, though I could tell she already knew. "You saw her." I didn't bother denying it. I threw the police report onto the table, the papers curling at the edges. You lied to me my whole life. She told me everything about my real father, about how you took me, about how you buried her letters and made her look insane. Tell me right now, was any of it true? My dad finally looked up, his eyes cold as stone. She's not your mother, he said flatly. She's a mess. She always has been. We gave you a real life, not the chaos she would have dragged you into. Don't you dare, I snapped, my voice breaking. Don't you dare stand there and pretend you saved me when all you did was steal me because you wanted a kid and had the money to do it. My mom reached for my hand, tears streaming down her cheeks. We loved you, she sobbed. We love you still. Yes, we took you, but we did it because we knew she couldn't handle it. She would have ruined you. We only wanted to give you the life she never could. I yanked my hand away, while rising in my throat. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to erase someone's mother just because you think you're better. You don't get to lie to me for 20 years and then act like you're the good guys. My dad slammed his fist on the table so hard the whiskey sloshed over the rim of his glass. You're our son, he snarled. Nothing you dig up changes that. My chest heaved, tears stinging my eyes, anger boiling over into something I didn't even recognize. No, I said, my voice low and shaky. I'm her son. And you made sure I never got to know her. You stole me from her, and now you want me to thank you for it? You're monsters. My mom let out a sob so broken it made me falter for a second, but then my dad stood up, towering over me, his face red with fury. If you walk out that door to be with her, he said through clenched teeth, then you are dead to us. Do you understand me? Dead. The house went silent, except for the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I realized in that moment that no matter what choice I made, my life as I knew it was already over. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my father's words echoing over and over, if you walk out that door, you're dead to us. The weight of it pressed down on my chest like a boulder, but underneath the fear and guilt there was something else, anger. A wildfire of anger that wouldn't let me rest. By morning, the choice was already made. I packed a bag quietly, shoving clothes into it with shaking hands, half expecting my dad to burst into the room and drag me back. But the house stayed eerily silent. When I walked out the front door, my mom was standing on the porch in her robe, her face streaked with tears. Please don't do this, she whispered. We're your family. We always have been. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to shake my head. You're the ones who did this. Not me. I can't live in your lie anymore. I left before she could say another word. My biological mother, no, my real mother, picked me up from the diner parking lot, just like she promised. For the first few minutes, we didn't speak. I just stared out the window as the town I'd grown up in blurred past, my heart torn between grief and relief. Finally, she broke the silence. I never thought I'd get this chance, she said softly. Not after all these years. Her voice cracked, and when I looked over, her eyes were glistening. We spent the day together in her small apartment. It wasn't much, just a cramped one-bedroom with peeling wallpaper and mismatched furniture, but it felt warmer, more honest, than the house I'd left behind. She showed me old photo albums filled with pictures of her as a teenager, her and my real father smiling in grainy Polaroids, her holding a baby that looked just like me. I kept everything, she said, brushing dust off the pages. Even when they told me to forget, I couldn't. I knew one day you'd come back to me. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But part of me still bristled with doubt. Was she telling the whole truth? Or was she just rewriting history to make herself the victim? Still, as I sat there flipping through those pictures, listening to her stories, I felt a connection I couldn't deny. She told me about my real father, how he played guitar, how he once drove 6 hours just to surprise her with flowers, how he cried when he first felt me kick inside her. She painted a picture of a man I'd never meet but suddenly felt like I'd always known. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was living in someone else's story. I felt like I was finally beginning my own. But deep down, I knew the storm wasn't over. Because the people I had left behind weren't just going to let me walk away. The honeymoon phase didn't last long. For a few days, I lived in a bubble with my real mom, trying to piece together a life that had been stolen from us. We cooked dinner together, laughed awkwardly at TV shows, and shared stories like we were racing to make up for lost time. But that bubble burst the moment my phone started blowing up. Missed calls. Dozens of texts. All from my adoptive parents. At first I ignored them, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened one message from my dad: "She's lying to you. Don't be stupid. You're ruining your life." Then another from my mom: "Please come home. She's manipulating you. She's sick. You're not safe with her." My blood boiled. Even now, after everything, they were still trying to control the story. Still trying to erase her, just like they always had. I showed the messages to my real mom, and her face crumpled. "They'll never stop," she whispered. "They've spent too long building this lie. They can't let it fall apart now." And she was right, because the next blow came fast. A family friend, someone I'd known my whole life, showed up at my work and pulled me aside. "Your parents are worried sick," she said. "They told me she's dangerous, that she used to be unstable, that she lost custody for a reason." The words hit like bullets, because I wanted to dismiss them, but part of me needed to know. Was there truth in what they said? Had my mom left something out? That night I confronted her directly. "They're saying you were unstable. That you weren't fit to raise me. That's why they took me. Is that true?" She froze, tears welling in her eyes, and for a terrifying second I thought she might admit it. But instead she shook her head violently. "No. I wasn't unstable. I was grieving. I had just lost your father. I was young, I was emotional, but I was never unfit. They twisted everything I did into proof I couldn't handle you. If I cried, they said I was hysterical. If I fought, they said I was dangerous. They painted me as a monster so they could keep you." Her voice broke into sobs, but anger flared in my chest instead of pity. Because I knew she was telling the truth, at least some of it. I had seen the police report, the missing signatures, the vague language. I knew there was something rotten in how the custody was decided. But my adoptive parents weren't backing down. They started showing up at places I went: outside the diner, at the grocery store, even once outside my mom's apartment. My dad cornered me in the parking lot one night, his face red, his voice a growl. "You think she loves you? She doesn't. She just wants to hurt us. You walk down this path, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." I stared at him, and for the first time I wasn't afraid. "Maybe I will," I said. "But at least it'll be my life. Not the one you forced on me." His face twisted with rage, and he spat on the ground before storming off. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about lies anymore. This was war. It all came to a head faster than I expected. The whispers, the texts, the confrontations in parking lots, they were just warm-ups for the explosion that finally tore everything open. It happened at a family gathering. My cousin's birthday, a place I hadn't even planned to show up, but my adoptive mom called me with that trembling voice she used when she wanted to manipulate me, begging me to come just for family's sake. Against my better judgment, I went. I thought maybe there was still a sliver of peace left to salvage. The second I walked through the door, every eye in the room locked on me. My dad stood in the center, glass in hand, and his booming voice cut through the chatter. There he is. The ungrateful brat who threw away 20 years of love for some woman he barely knows. The room went dead silent. My face burned as relatives shifted uncomfortably, some glaring, some looking away. My mom rushed to my side, gripping my arm. "Please, just tell them she's lying to you. Tell them you know the truth." And then, like fate itself was waiting for the moment, the door opened behind me. My real mom walked in. She looked small, fragile, but her eyes blazed with a fire I hadn't seen before. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My adoptive dad's face turned crimson. "You don't belong here," he snarled. But she ignored him, walking straight up to me. "He deserves the truth," she said firmly. "And if you won't give it to him, I will." She pulled out a folder, worn at the edges, stuffed with documents I hadn't seen before. Hospital reports. Letters signed by social workers. Even a sworn statement from one of her old neighbors who had witnessed my adoptive parents taking me the night my father died. She spread them across the table for everyone to see. My hands shook as I read them, my eyes darting from the signatures to the dates, all lining up with the story she had told me. It was undeniable. The lie my parents had built their entire lives around collapsed right there, in front of the whole family. My adoptive mom broke down sobbing, whispering we just wanted a child over and over. My dad tried to bluster, shouting that the documents were fake, that she was manipulating me. But no one was buying it anymore. The room erupted into chaos, voices shouting, accusations flying, but all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. I looked at both of them, one pair of parents who had raised me on lies, and another who had been robbed of me but never stopped fighting. For a moment, I wanted to scream, to curse them all, to burn the whole family tree down. But instead, I took a breath, grabbed the folder, and said the only words that mattered: I'm choosing the truth. I walked out with my real mom at my side, leaving behind the life I thought I knew. And even though I didn't know what the future held, for the first time in my life, I wasn't living in someone else's story. I was living in mine. I didn't plan to post an update, but so many people asked what happened after that night. I walked out of the family gathering with my real mom, folder of documents clutched in my hands. To be honest, I'm still trying to process it myself. The fallout was immediate. Half the family cut me off, accusing me of betraying the only parents I'd ever known. The other half quietly reached out, admitting they'd always felt something was off about the way my parents talked about my early years but never dared to question it. My adoptive dad hasn't spoken to me since. He sent one text, 2 words, "You're dead." I blocked his number after that. My adoptive mom left voicemails, sobbing, begging me to come home, insisting they only ever acted out of love. Sometimes I listen just to torture myself, because a part of me still aches for the woman who raised me, even if it was all built on lies. But then I look at the evidence sitting in a neat folder on my desk, and I remember that love doesn't erase theft. Love doesn't excuse 20 years of deception. Life with my real mom hasn't been easy. She works 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads, and her apartment is so small we trip over each other. But it's real. When she talks to me, I know she's not hiding anything anymore. She told me about the years she spent screaming into the void, trying to be heard. About the night she sat outside the courthouse with letters clutched in her hands, praying someone would take her seriously. About the depression that nearly swallowed her whole when she realized she might never see me again. Hearing it hurts, but it's a hurt I'd rather have than the numbness of lies. Therapy has been messy. My counselor says I'm grieving 2 parents I lost at once, one to betrayal, one to time. Some days I wake up furious, ready to burn the whole world down. Other days I feel like a little kid again, desperate for someone to just tell me who I am. I don't have answers yet. What I do have is choice. I choose who I let into my life. I choose whose story I believe. And I choose not to let my adoptive parents' threats define me anymore. For the first time, I'm not just surviving, I'm starting over. And maybe that's the closest thing to peace I'll ever get.